We must mobilise the market.
Current commitments are not enough.
We need public money, we need private money, we need philanthropic money.
It's no secret that limiting global warming is going to cost a lot of money. But just how much is still a sticking point. $131 trillion between now and 2050 is one answer, according to the International Renewable Energy Agency, much more than previously estimated. For context, the world's GDP was nearly $85 trillion last year. Of course, it's basically impossible to estimate the final cost, but the world is trying to figure out how to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal set out in the Paris Agreement, amongst other commitments.
2060年前实现碳中和.
The whole economic system will need to adapt and align with the climate objectives.
It's a huge bill that would have to be split between governments, businesses, and consumers. So we broke it down to understand where the money needs to go. First, we'll need to phase out fossil fuels. According to this report, $24 trillion in planned investment in fossil fuels will need to be redirected to energy transition technologies.
A carbon price and a carbon tax is what has been highlighted as the main instrument we should develop to facilitate the transition.
Economist Danai Kyriakopoulou studies climate and economic development. She says there are a number of ways the world could pay to phase out fossil fuels, although so far governments have been reluctant to raise taxes.
Subsidies, taxes, direct investments, regulation, all needs to be adjusted to incentivize this transition.
Many experts, for example, say rich countries should help poor countries pay to phase out fossil fuels, and governments would have to retrain fossil fuel workers for new jobs in clean energy sectors. Investment in new energy systems would make up the bulk of the $131 trillion price tag. $116 trillion would go to things like efficiency, electrification, and new technologies designed to help clean energy solutions become economically viable.
This amount is covering the cost in infrastructure, the cost for ensuring more energy efficiency, and the deployment of renewables and green hydrogen and sustainable biomass.
But new technologies, including sucking carbon out of the atmosphere through carbon capture and using waste to generate power, may actually turn out not to provide any large-scale solutions at all. And estimates for those ideas, like green hydrogen to fuel trucks and aircraft, are based on how much we think they will one day cost. Spending this much money over the next 30 years would require commitments from the public and private sectors, but there is some debate about how much money each sector should provide.
Clearly, the private sector has far more money than governments in their ability to be able to move on this.
Right now, governments are negotiating investment packages and spending, and investors are pouring money into sustainable funds.
Finance has a crucial role to play in this transition. It is a very powerful lever that policymakers have to direct financial flows away from harming activities to activities and sectors that support this transition. But while the financial system is a very powerful lever, it is not enough by itself.
Investors will also have one eye on unpredictable energy prices. Recently, the prices of oil and natural gas have risen, laying bare the world's continued dependence on fossil fuels. And many worry about the destruction of jobs in these industries.
Even though it is something that will require a lot of investment, there are returns to this. There are benefits, there will be new jobs, and it is the growth story of the 21st century. And if we do not invest, the cost will be even higher.
At the current rate of emissions, scientific models predict that the Earth will warm by a potentially dangerous 2.7 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, compared to pre-industrial levels. Well above the 1.5 degrees Celsius target that would limit the impact of climate change, and that most countries have said they aim to hit.
We have today all the technologies that we need for fighting climate change and be consistent with the Paris Agreement. The market is already driving us to a new energy system that will be dominated by renewables. So how the English may say, the direction of travel is clear.